Fuck it, since MMA is the only sport that exists right now, let's talk about it. With UFC 249 being the first sporting event to happen since March 11, it was quite successful. Dana White and the UFC managed to put on a great event with 11 very good fights. With Sam Alvey vs Ryan Spann kicking off the early prelims, it was a very good showing from both men, with Spann catching Alvey in a standing arm triangle early in the first, although he was able to work out of it. The fight stayed on the feet for the remainder and Spann was able to edge out Alvey on the judges' scorecards, improving his record to 18-5. Bryce Mitchell then fought Charles Rosa, putting on a world-class grappling display, proving why he deserves to be in the UFC. While Mitchell dominated on the ground, Rosa showed amazing submission and defense, fighting off 3 twister attempts and many arm triangles. Vicente Luque and Nico Price met for a second time, and with the first fight being an instant classic, everybody expected this to be much of the same. Both men showed their brilliant striking, with Luque finishing Price for the second time, but this time by doctor stoppage. Price did show very good striking and even seemed to have Luque in trouble at times. However, the clean, crisp striking of Luque proved to be too much. Michelle Waterson vs Carla Esparza is where the card began to get controversial. With neither woman being very active in the fight, most fans assumed the fight would be won by whoever was able to more effectively and efficiently land their strikes. Waterson is the one who in many people's eyes was able to do this and should have won by a score of 29-28 over the former women's strawweight champion. Many people even had the fight going to Waterson 30-27, as the most effective thing Esparza was able to do throughout the fight was secure a takedown in the last 30 seconds of a first round where she landed no strikes and was ineffective on the ground. The judges scored the fight 30-27 Waterson, 29-28 Esparza, and 30-27 Esparza, which is utterly baffling. The fact that 2 of the judges scored the fight 30-27 but 1 for each of the fighters just proves that the judges in MMA are incompetent. Oleinik vs Werdum was a terrible fight, with Oleinik putting on a great performance in the first round and occasionally showing high-level striking at other points throughout the fight, but Werdum came in looking very out of shape and was not able to do much throughout the fight. The main fight on the prelims was Pettis vs Cowboy 2, which was always going to be a great fight. Both men put on an amazing display of striking, with Pettis slightly edging Cowboy out on the judges' scorecards. Many people had a problem with this decision. However, the fight was very close and honestly could have gone either way, so I didn't take too much issue with it. Moving on to the main card, Greg Hardy had a decent performance against Yorgan De Castro, making adjustments throughout the fight and coming out with the win. The fight was actionless and boring about halfway through the second round, as De Castro broke his foot when Hardy checked a kick, leaving him unable to do much. Calvin Kattar vs Jeremy Stephens was a very entertaining fight, with Stephens starting off strong in the first round, using leg kicks to set up strikes and hinder Kattar's movement. In the second round, Kattar came out strong, able to check the kicks by Stephens and counter with leg kicks of his own and some good boxing. Kattar ended the fight midway through the second round when he took Stephens' sole with a right elbow which dropped Stephens, which were then followed up by strikes on the ground. Francis Ngannou vs Jairzinho Rozenstruik was the fastest fight of the night, with Ngannou knocking out Rozenstruik 20 seconds into the first round with terrifying power. Henry Cejudo vs Dominic Cruz was another controversial fight, with Cejudo winning via TKO with 2 seconds left in the second round. Cejudo hit Cruz with a hard knee which sent him to the ground, and he then followed up with strikes on the ground while Cruz was trying to recover. When watching the replay of the fight-ending sequence, it looked as if many of the strikes Cejudo landed on the ground were glancing and not doing much damage, while Cruz was actively standing up while this was occurring. Cruz was understandably upset after the stoppage, as he seemed to be coherent and barely fazed by any of the ground strikes Cejudo had landed. After the fight, Cejudo announced his retirement from MMA, and while many people disliked him, nobody can say that he didn't have a spectacular career, as he was a 2-weight champion and Olympic gold medalist. The main event of the night was just as insane as Dana White had made it out to be. With Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson always putting on spectacular performances every time they step in the octagon, this was no different. Watching this fight we learned that Justin Gaethje has matured a lot as a fighter since we last saw him in the octagon, now having the ability to pick his shots and be patient when he sees that an opponent is hurt. With Ferguson we learned that he is not human. Gaethje has won 19 of his fights by KO or TKO and threw everything he could at Ferguson only for Ferguson to walk right through most of the strikes as if nothing had even happened. Gaethje also received Fight of the Night and Performance of the Night bonuses for this performance, giving him 9 bonuses in 7 appearances and becoming the only man to receive bonuses in all of his first 7 UFC fights. With this card wrapping up we also learned that the MMA gods hate us and never want us to see Khabib vs Tony, as that is now very unlikely to happen, at least anytime soon.